It's now time for the BNEF Brief, which gives in-depth analysis on clean energy, advanced transport, commodities, and emerging technologies. This week, we're taking a look at one federal agency that's ringing in the new year with some newfound respect: the Department of Energy. While President Trump has been trying to cut funding for energy research and development, year-end spending on those initiatives increased across the board. Why the U-turn? Joining me now from Washington, it is Stephen Munro from Bloomberg NEF. So, Stephen, why now the increase, which is quite a bit of a reversal from what we've seen in previous years?
Hey, Taylor. Well, really, it was deadline time in Washington. If this spending bill hadn't have gone through, the government would have closed again. And nobody from President Trump on down in Washington wanted to see the government close down. So it meant, in many cases, swallowing some bitter pills on both sides. And in the case of DOE funding, this is something that President Trump had to sign.
And what was underneath the numbers? Give us some of the details.
Well, for a long time, pretty much since he's been in office, President Trump has sought to cancel or dramatically cut federal research and development into energy, primarily because most of that R&D, or a lot of that R&D, is going towards the renewable technologies that he dislikes, but also because of the general feeling that the private sector could do it better. So those sentiments have been reflected in the budget requests that President Trump has put in since he's been in office. But this time they hit the reality of congressional resistance and a desire to refocus some R&D spending in the government.
A notable winner of all of this is surprisingly wind energy. Why did wind make the 2020 budget?
Well, wind did pretty well because, again, of the exigencies of trying to get this bill through, but also despite the antagonism that President Trump shows for wind, and he's done so repeatedly, many of the Trump states are high wind production states. I mean, when you look at the swath of states from Ohio in the east to Wyoming in the west, from Nebraska in the north to Texas in the south, this is largely Trump country, and wind is king, or at least competing to be king in many of those states.